Welcome to another episode of Maller Notes podcast. I'm glad to have you here. My name is William Maller, and again, I'm glad to have this moment to reflect, to think a little bit on some topics that can affect your career, your personal development, your professional development, but also the way you're leading, you're managing your company, manage your teams, managing your business. As always, I try to work with some content curation that can be connected to the things that are affecting you and the way you work, but also be a moment to reflect on other things that come with that. What are the side effects? What are the things around our careers that can or cannot affect the way we are working today and perhaps the way we'll be working in the future? What I try to do is always think about topics that connect to each other and that represent some kind of change that help us to also reflect on the skills we have today, on the skills we need to develop, and perhaps as leaders, what are those kind of competences that we need to rearrange, to rethink, to make sure that the way we are leading, the way we are conducting our teams and our business are connected to what the world is requesting from us. And as always, I want to invite you for a moment of being out a little bit from the hype, from the noisy, from everything that is making you to accelerate too much, and perhaps have a moment of a reflection on what is actually going on and what is the deep understanding behind that. Because many times something that is happening today already happened in the past with some different technology, with some different different history, different case, but can always bring us some lessons that may help us to understand that something that is happening right now in the present, it's connected to so many other things that already happened in the past, or perhaps it's a sign to something that is changing to the future. And about the future, we can only have opinions, but when the opinions are based in some facts, in some tendencies, in some uh, yeah trends that we see that are connected with real data, with real things changing, we can make better decisions. And that's why today we have three topics, very interesting, as always, very connected. The first one, reflecting on optimism, because apparently we are living a moment where the optimism was never so low in the states when this since this kind of data start to be measured. We are also going to talk a little bit about how the leadership agenda is changing a little bit. So instead of being involved into everything, people were deciding and deliberately deciding to prioritize better their time and their energy and just put that in the right things. And finally, what is this thing that is changing completely or making a big difference nowadays for people who are succeeding in their careers? According to data, apparently visibility of our work is one of the biggest things that we should be reflecting right now. Okay, so as always, let's go directly to the first topic and let's try to have a good reflection on it. Global optimism among people was never that low. Yes, that's what we are seeing in the companies for the first time. That in general, this year, 2026, we are seeing the lowest level of optimism coming from an important research from the Edelman Trust Barometer. This Edelman Trust Barometer served more than 33,000 people across 28 different countries. And what they found is that only 32% of the global population believe that the next generation will live better. That's a very interesting data because 32% of the people thinking or believing that the next generation will have a better life means that basically one third of the population only believes that things are getting better. In India and China, two of the fastest growing markets in the world and fast growing economies in the world, this number dropped even more, dropped more than 13 points in a single year compared to 2025. So, with the data in mind, I think we have an interesting reflection in front of us because, of course, we are living a moment of things accelerating too much. We are seeing that AI, new technologies, data, information, social media, everything make us believe, or at least feel, that things are moving too fast for us to be able to follow what is the path, what is happening, what is the thing that I should put my attention on. And the problem with that is that this report from the Edelman Group, they show that the world moved from polarization to something that is called insularity. So connected to this kind of optimism going down, they try to understand what is the root cause for that. And in the same report, they have something that they are calling insularity. And I want to help you understand that because basically polarization is what we see right now everywhere right now is the right wing against the left wing, is us against them, is this kind of thing that makes people put themselves on a side and fight against the other side. So polarization is this kind of thing that I don't need to explain that much because probably you see everywhere. You just need to open some news website, some social media, and you're going to understand that we are living in a moment of confrontation between two different ideas all the time. But insularity then is different because this is, according to the report and reading what is there, it is basically groups that stop engaging with anyone different from them. So it's maybe, or at least in my opinion, it's worse than polarization. Because polarization, we still have some kind of dialogue. Maybe it's a screaming and bad dialogue, but people are still doing some kind of confrontation of the ideas. So we still have people from one side trying to prove or basically just trying to prove that their ideas are better than the other side. The best scenario, of course, are two sides of some ideas that confront each other, but listening to what they have to say to come up with some common understanding, right? What we see in polarization is basically this group and this group fighting, just trying to prove their point without actually coming to a conclusion on okay, we can agree on this, we disagree on that, we are never going to agree on that, we're never going to align on something, but the dialogue is still happening. Again, not a good one, not the best one for the humanity. And in human history, we always had some kind of confrontation of ideas all the time. So this is part of who we are. But insularity, it's a bit different. We have people basically having their ideas, being closed with that, not with the intention to change anything, and they don't want to even expose themselves to someone who is thinking differently from them. And this is basically showing this report because 70% of the people are reluctant to trust someone with different values, backgrounds, or beliefs. It's a big amount of people, 70%, who don't want to consider that they will trust on someone with different beliefs and backgrounds than themselves. 61% say that they deliberately avoid information sources they disagree with. So, again, are people who build their opinion on something and they are not even intend to read about some other perspective. They are focused on what they already believe. They bring more of that, so they are inside this bubble and they don't want to be in touch with someone thinking differently from them. That's why I'm saying that it's much more dangerous than polarization. And finally, another data that I capture here is 42% would rather switch departments than work for a manager with different values. So you see that it's quite bad, right? We see that people are lowering their optimism on what is coming, but at the same time, we see this kind of trend that people are not intending to build some kind of dialogue and even change their idea. I have my opinions about many things. Much of my opinion about the topics we discuss here, I normally share what I think, what I agree, what I disagree, but normally I'm open to change my mind or to change my perspective on something if I'm convinced about it. But to be convinced about something, you need to have data, you need to understand the facts, and you need to find the concept or build the concept on what is true and what is not truth. So of course, this is quite dangerous in so many sense for humanity because of course that the search for the truth is one of the things that move us to be even smarter. You know, when you're reading about something and read one book, two books, 10 books with different perspectives on that same topic, you build some kind of understanding about not only the topic itself, but everything that is around that, the different opinions, the different perspectives, and you build your own opinion. And I like to think like Mortimer Adler, he says in his book, How to Read Books, that normally you should never disagree or even agree with something that you don't understand. But the problem is that apparently everyone now has a PhD understanding on every single topic. Everyone on social media appear to be like an expert on economic situations. They understand everything about the world. They understand everything about the conflicts. They understand everything about every single culture around the world to build their opinion and get stuck with that. And the less smart you are, the more prone you are to stay with your opinion forever. Because if you're not smart enough to know that you can be wrong about so many things, there's a strong chance that you are not researching about other perspectives to understand the facts around you, different facts from different perspectives as well. So you can build or reinforce your opinion if need, change your opinion, but at least build knowledge about why you agree with something or why you disagree with something. If you have an opinion about something that you are very sure about and you ask 5 times why, so let's say you are sure about point A, ask yourselves why 5 times, and try to see if you can explain, really explain, okay, not just giving excuse with this, you know, teenager kind of word that don't complete one single phrase. And maybe that was a bit offensive because I know many teenagers that would be able to explain their opinions much better than people older than me, or we know what I mean. It's not about generations, it's about it's about their minds and their mindsets. But with that optimism getting low in so many sense, the concept or the concern from your business for your career is of course everything else that come with that. Because in this condition, people choose to stay with what is familiar to them. People, if they are not that optimistic, they're not take risks, so the investments get lowering, and this is a risk overall for many kind of business around the world. So the leader who understand that in this context, I think would start to stop thinking like, how do I motivate my team, and maybe start asking what kind of environment we are building here in our company, what kind of culture we are building, a culture that accept different opinions and different perspectives, that we can work with them and they respect each other. Or are we building and hiring a team that is so, equal to each one, that we are not open to innovate because we have no clash of ideas? Everyone agrees with everything. That's very dangerous. And finally, the company I want to ask you, or the reflection I want to leave from this topic, is basically how your behavior as a leader is influencing on that. How you invite your team for the good conflicts that can help them to disagree on something, to think different, and find new ways of doing the things. In many companies where innovation stops, you can research about many cases. One of the common things to see is that people stop clashing their perspectives. So everyone just starts at some point thinking equally. They are so sure that things are working good. This is the way we do things here. This is the way we've been doing things here for 30 years. And then things stop to move. From an innovation perspective, things stop to move from this disruptive thinking. That is what makes innovation happen. Schumpeter, in his book and his researchers, he did a lot of findings that innovation to happen need clash of ideas. You need to break things to be able to find new ways of solving the same problems, or find a new way of solving a kind of or solve a kind of problem. So to be able to do that, you as a leader, you need to provocate, to stimulate the good conflicts between your team. Conflicts, I mean, when the team start clashing, but clashing focusing on solving problems, on fighting what is the best thing. They disagree, but they don't disagree personally. They disagree about the work they are doing. They disagree about something that is helping them to become better as a team. You can learn a lot about that in Patrick Lencioni's books. And this is quite a way that you can help or make sure that your team is building the right maturity that will help them to stay relevant as a team now, but look into how they will be even better team a better team in the future. Okay, with that, we can connect directly to the next stop here. I mentioned next topic is very connected to everything we're talking here about leadership. But now I want to talk a little bit more about your energy management. A leader with a full calendar and a full kind of set of commitments for the whole year without time to anything could appear as someone that is very committed, right? They are involved in everything, they are involved in any kind of meetings, they are seeing everywhere. But is this really what is making the great leaders get results nowadays? Well, apparently not. We have a very interesting research to discuss on here from Barry O'Reilly. You can always find the sources in the description. But basically, the data that we see now in 2026 is saying that the most effective leaders are not trying to be in more things. Actually, they are choosing to be in fewer things and get involved in less things. That's what is happening. That's what this report is talking about. That basically we are seeing a shift on leadership prioritization in general across the world. And they mentioned that this has even a name, which is it's using the acronym JOMO, or the joy of missing out. Basically, it's the opposite of FOMO, if you're familiar with that, which is the fear of missing out. And in the FOMO case, you have basically this concern that it's so many things happening. You need to be involved in everything. You need to know about everything, and your time is limited. So you get involved in so many things that you don't have your energy, your focus on the right place and at the right time. But here, in the JOMO way, you have a joy of missing things because you know, you understand that your energy, your attention span, everything is limited. So you need to, of course, understand and be sure that you're putting your energy, your time, and your considerations, your decision making, vitality, energy in this case to make decision, it's in the right things at the right time. So for over or more than a decade, or for the past few years, what we see is that the more you do and the more you're involved, the more relevant somehow you appear to be. But in the end, the results are showing that the leaders that get involved in less things and use their time to focus on the most important, the most crucial aspects of the work are the ones getting more results for themselves, for the company, for the business, and of course, for their teams. What the research is saying is basically that the quality of judgment became visible as a performance differentiator in the past. But now, with so many meetings, with so many things happening at the same time, the leaders that are having more success are the ones that are showing that presence is not being, it doesn't mean being available to everything. But those leaders who understood that is presence is about bringing your best judgment, your best energy, your attention to what generally needs it. Okay, so with that, the whole concept here, or the whole discussion, the whole consideration, thinking I want to bring to the table is when you are available with intention to something, your brain connects to that. And of course, we already discussed in other videos here, it's proved by science that your brain doesn't work with multitasking. You think you are good on that, you have this impression, but actually your brain was not developed to work in multitasking way. So when you focus, when your energy, your brain, your concentration are in the right place, you make better decisions. And when you are organizing your agenda to be in fewer things, but be there with your presence, with your attention, you're also giving a very interesting message to the team that you trust then that for the many things that you are not involved, they are going to make good decisions, they will make good evaluations, and the work will keep moving. And you also send the message that sometimes you are needed, and sometimes they should bring you to discussion because they need your judgment, your decision. When you start to build this kind of maturity with your team, you start helping them and yourself to understand where and how you should be involved. And this is for me, and actually by bibliography, at least on agile development, that was the intention when the term self-organized team was made. people made a lot of confusion about self-organized teams being a team without any kind of management. And I know there's a lot of polemics on this with different authors' perspective, but the idea of self-management was always more about making the team, enabling the team to move with everything they can move by themselves, get the work done, get the quality approved, get something moving that doesn't require a decision making from senior leadership, but also understanding what are not the gates but the limits for those kind of decisions where they need to involve leadership for that. And when you have those kind of agreements with your team, everything gets easier because they understand better when they need to involve you, and your energy will be also allocated to the right things. So I want to invite you to reflect on this and look to your calendar and reflect what would have happened last week if you did enjoy some of those meetings. Look to all your calendar, open there Monday to Friday, and check meeting by meeting what would have happened if you didn't enjoy that. If you were not there, something would be still moving, something would still be deciding, and that would be okay. So start reflecting of those in the past so you can have a better judgment for the future to understand what and where you should be and why and what is expected from you. And finally, I want to invite you to jump directly to the third topic, where we're going to talk a little bit more about visibility. I know we've been talking a lot about this. It's a term that is close to my heart because I really believe that there are many senior professionals out there that could be much more visible to the world because they are making great things, but they just don't know how to do that. But let's start with a story that I think that can connect, or a short example that can connect to that. Okay, two professionals, same background. They have the same performance, very good professionals. They work in the same area, and we can say they produce the same kind of quality for their work. One is moving forward and progressing in his career, and the second is not. What is the difference between them? Well, according to what we see in 2026, and we've been seeing that for the past few years, one thing has a big difference for professionals around the world right now. And I'm talking about visibility. We have a report from IP Business Academy published now in beginning of 2026 that is talking about private competence. So it's basically um, the central finding here is basically that in any environment where people cannot evaluate technical quality in advance, they make decisions based on observable signals of competence. Basically, or simplifying that, when people need to decide or need to think about performance and they don't have something technical that they can evaluate, like sometimes it's something tangible, something they can see, they will rely on the visibility of the work itself. And that is, of course, hard to explain and to bring to examples, but you can think about the one who is being there is speaking about the problems they solved, the one who can represent with good examples during one-on-one conversations how they contributed for accomplish some kind of project, or to finish some kind of situation, or to close some kind of problem. Everything that is observable is much better to help people make decisions. So, with the example or the short story from the beginning, just two professionals doing the same thing in the same competence, sometimes the only difference between them is that this one that moves forward is the one who is being able to translate what they are doing to be visible to who must know about it. And I know you maybe are very angry with the whole idea of personal branding. You are one of those that believe that, good work speaks for itself. I understand you're angry because I was that person as well at some point in the beginning of my career. But then I understood that it doesn't matter if I like the rules or not, the rules are what they are. And unfortunately, I don't know if you realize, but people are too busy to see what is the working that is speaking by itself around us. People are thinking about their problems, their concerns, their agenda. You, do you know what people in your around you are doing and their work is speaks by itself. I know you can maybe think in one or two cases, but this is not how our mind works. We are, again, busy with so many things. The spotlight effect explain that very well, that in psychology, people are so concerned what people are thinking about, then what the others are thinking about me. And they don't realize that people are not thinking about then they are thinking about, their problems, their agenda, their priorities. They don't have time to think about what they've been doing for the past 2 weeks. Even if they are in a position that they should know about what you are doing, if you don't showcase, if you don't represent that in a good way, they have no chance to see it. So believing that good work will speak by itself is not bad thinking, but unfortunately, it's wrong for the times that we are living with. And here I'm bringing, of course, the data because the data is showing that. But even without the data, I could say that by my opinion, with speaking with so many people about visibility, not only online, but visibility in their careers, in their companies, that this is a problem that people takes a long time to understand. And also, once they understand, something click, something change their minds. And they understand that this is not about being around and claiming about the work and posting more on LinkedIn. It's not about that. It's just about sometimes writing a few bullets once you accomplish something or once you do something about what were your contributions, what specifically you did. So when you go to one-to-one with your manager or discussion with someone, you don't need to brag about it, but you can mention, look, in the past 2 weeks I finished this, my main contribution was this one. I've been developing for the past few years the habit of collecting, and I do that sometimes using paper and pen, sometimes using Evernote or some other tool. Everything that happened in the week for me, like and very specific what I accomplished, how I helped the team. Because this is also something that people don't realize. Sometimes, of course, and we don't need to say that, of course, the work is a company work, is a team work. But you need to think, okay, it's a teamwork, but what did you do on that teamwork? How you contributed? What was your part of the thing that was achieved? What was your part of the project that was delivered? And in this research we have, we see some data that makes this even more a concern that you should have in your mind because 44% of employers have hired someone directly because of their visible professional presence. So this is external presence. And 54% have rejected candidates because of the absence of it. So see that I've been talking about internal presence, showcase your work for your company, your leaders, but here I also want to mention about external visibility. And again, I'm not inviting you to start from today posting everything on LinkedIn or using this AI boring voice to just talking about something in your industry. It's not about that, but being present. And you can learn a lot about how to be present. For example, I've been writing a lot in a newsletter called You Visible that building visibility online or offline and building your personal branding, even if you don't like this word or this expression, it can be done even if you are shy, even if you don't like this kind of self promotion. You can still do that in a humble and good and human way. So think about it because, again, if you don't like it, maybe you need to at least understand why you don't like it. What is the thing that is blocking your mind to do something that could be good for your career? And finally, the report itself, they mention it like visibility is not about publishing more, appearing more online, but it's about making your professional reasoning recognizable earlier in the decision process of people who matter. So, as I said, sometimes it's just praising your work, organizing your work to appear in a good way, not bragging, not trying to appear more than it should, but making sure that people who should know about what you're doing, they know about it. And it's not about hype, it's not about self-promotion, it's not about personal branding just because everyone else is doing that, but it's something that is connected to your portfolio of skills to your career, the soft skills, and the way you sell yourself, the way you organize your portfolio of skills and abilities to showcase to the company and to the world are, of course, something that you can learn. And I invite you to reflect about that because what do you what do you do very well that people should know more about it? You know, people who can influence your career, your manager, the manager of your manager, or people working in different companies that are hiring for the position that you are that is needing someone that in some position that you are good on, they cannot just like this discover that you exist. You need to showcase yourself. You need to appear somehow. Your name should bring to their minds. And again, work will not speak by itself, not in a noise and accelerated world that we are living right now. So think about that, reflect about that, and start slowly. Just do something simple, as I said. Collect some of the things that you have been doing for the past few projects, how you contributed, what you specifically did, and how that makes some change or some difference for the business you're working on. And you're going to see that it's not that hard. And if you don't want to call it personal branding, okay, don't call it. But do something for yourself that can help you because visibility is important. Okay, and with that, I think we close for today with the connection of all those topics. As you can see, the common thread here is that the world is always pushing us, is always requesting more from us. But it's our decision to reflect where we want to put our energy, where we want to put our attention, and more importantly, how we are going to prioritize the limited hours that we have in a way that will help us in the present without forgetting that we need to plan also for the future. That was Maller Notes podcast. My name is William Maller, and I'm glad that we had another time to talk together here and to reflect about some topics. Okay, see you in the next episode.